Hey everyone, thank you so much for those of you who are watching this live, and for those of you who aren't, thank you for watching on playback. I'm Jay, I'm the founder of Launch. We're the happy performance marketing agency, and I'm currently in our Bristol office, so hopefully it won't be too noisy in the background. I'm joined today by Jan. Jan, can you do a quick introduction?
Yeah, hi Jay. It's very good to meet you. Thanks for having me here. My name is John. I'm heading the European and Latin American business at VWO, and I'm one of those people who is totally addicted to conversion rate optimization. And as such, very happy to be here to meet you and the audience, talking about my favorite subject.
Well, it's a really interesting subject as well. I think we've got an event obviously coming up in a couple of weeks' time. So you're going to be speaking and you're sponsoring very kindly our CMO's Guide to Conversion Optimization in Bristol on the 17th of April. And the talk that you're going to be doing there is about playing half the game. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, I think it was like that's how the idea for this topic came during a number of events that we attended, conferences we attended around the subject of conversion rate optimization, and I got more and more the feeling of being in Groundhog Day. You know, remember this movie, right? So you get up every morning and you always see the same things, and the same things happen. So if you're visiting conferences around the subject of conversion rate optimization, actually it is, you meet the same people, we all agree it's a great topic, we all know about the full power of experimentation and optimization, and it caught my attention that if you talk to people who are not living in this bubble, like online marketeers, very, very often you notice that how far away they are from knowing this potential that experimentation could bring to their business and to their everyday work. Um, I so this made us think about look a little bit deeper into conversion rate optimization in the space of online marketeers. And well, Launch is one of the few agencies which actually is getting it right. It's and I'm not saying this because you're paying me for saying it, but it's actually
Joe will be gutted he can't hear himself being praised here.
No, it's not though so many agencies that who are coming from paid search and performance marketing that actually dive deep into conversion rate optimization. And so after having looked a little bit into the everyday life of online marketing agencies and online marketing directors and so on and so forth, I was surprised to see that more than 90% of them are playing half the game. So they are totally focused on the offsite experience. And even though they talk about conversion, about campaign optimization, it's all about putting the right message into the right channel to reach the right people. And this is it. So it's totally click oriented. And the other part of the game, what happens in the post-click experience, what happens on landing pages and so on. So that is something that I would like to.
Because if you think how much learning, effort, money goes into the actual acquisition, going through to the website, the campaign optimization, all the different platforms that are utilized, the huge budgets that go into it. And then it goes through to the website and suddenly they're expected to see results the other end. So tell me a little bit about how VWO approaches experimentation. We've got a few clients that are using your platform. What's the kind of reason that they're choosing to use VWO, and how easy is it to implement?
Well, that's the easy to implement is probably the decisive part of it. It's the easy to use, ease of use, and easy to implement. Although sometimes it's confused with simplicity. So it's easy to use, and still it's a very comprehensive platform. That is why when I was not yet working at VWO, VWO became my favorite tool. Just for the people who are not so familiar with this market of conversion rate optimization and the technology behind it, there's not even 10 serious players, I would say, that on planet Earth, which are actually tackling this segment. So there are several platforms, technology platforms, that enable people to actually run A/B tests, run qualitative analysis of user behavior, and so on and so forth. So very, very limited number of people. When VWO was created 14 years ago, I think the main reason for the company's success those days was to keep things as simple as possible. And this is still in the DNA of the company, even though it became a comprehensive platform for the entire process of conversion rate optimization. It's still very easy to do. So when there is a smaller company around the corner here and is asking me when is the right time to start, the answer is always now, because it's easy to do, it's scalable. You can start even if you are just at the very beginning, and then you can scale up your optimization work very, very easily. I think that's a key thing. There is, in simple words, when I explain how exactly does that work, I explained to my mother, right? She's 85. And I said, that's pretty easy, Mom. You have a website, somebody has a website, so you plug in a couple of lines of code. So, and when this tool is there, then you can modify your website. You can implement a couple of your ideas, and then the platform gives 50% to the original version, 50% of the other version, and then you see what happens. And if your idea was a good idea, or was not a good idea. So well, she understood that this seemed to be quite obvious, right? So I think it's easy. However, I think, and I have to blame ourselves as well, sometimes we are oversimplifying, right? So we say it's very easy, you just plug it in and then you run an A/B, there's no rocket science, and so on and so forth. And Joe and his team, they know that the harsh reality can be that you need some other things to get it into place. I always say you need 3 Ps. You need a great platform. So it's I think we are one of the greatest platforms that I'm totally convinced about it. And even if I would leave VWO, I would continue to think it. You need great people, and you need a great process. So if you have if one of these 3 Ps are missing, you have great people, but you don't have a process, or you have a great process, but not the right people with the right skill set. The best platform in the world will not be able to help you with that.
Yeah.
So that is where companies like Launch come into the game, who know how the process works and who have the right people who can, let's say, either bring them or enable people so that they can actually start running an agile optimization process.
So what we're talking about is actually taking then the campaigns that you're delivering to the website, seeing how that traffic reacts on the site, and then being able to test different landing page configurations, moving forms around to be able to make it testing whether a form immediately on landing on the page versus a form at the bottom of the page that you've got to scroll down and find, what then the impact is on the conversion rate. I mean, that was a very oversimplified explanation of it. But ultimately, if a test succeeds and you have a winning test, you implement that change, that's straight away money on the bottom line, right?
Yeah, that's it. And so we could ask ourselves, why isn't that happening all the time? So, and the answer is interesting, yet wrong. So one answer that I heard pretty often is, well, we are always in a rush, and if we build a landing page for a particular campaign, it's only up and running for a couple of weeks. So there's no time actually to run deep optimization. Why is that? Why is this assumption coming up? It is because you think it's more complicated. So, but if you build a landing page and you just plug in your optimization tool and you have a clear idea, let's say, of the many different good ideas that you had in mind when you built your landing pages, because your team certainly did not only have one idea, they had 3, 4, 5, or 10 ideas. So actually, it's very, very easy to really adjust them, build them all out, and then get the, let's say, get it out there. And what not everybody knows is that, yes, you have a limited period of time, but you can actually activate the dynamic traffic allocation. So you have all your ideas, then automatically the algorithm drives more traffic to those modules that actually work best. And it's not rocket science. So
how do you think, how do you help companies, or what do you think helps companies have more of a culture of experimentation?
Well, I think, well, that's a good question. A culture can't be implemented like a project, right? So a culture comes over time, building a real, truly a culture. I think the most important piece of it is that when you start doing it, you start building your first experiments and your A/B tests. It's is communication, is communicating the success stories, but also the failures, the results, because it's really interesting. The moment that you start encouraging people really to come up with their own ideas, I have an idea. What happens if we would present 4 images instead of 1 big image? Is that, yeah, it could be an idea. Let's try it, right? So I think encouraging many idea generators in the company is one piece of it. So communicate what it is, throw in a bit of gamification, and then encourage not only your UX designer, no, encourage the people in customer service, encourage the people who are not even related to your website. So very often you have a company that is 500 people and only 50 of them are related to the digital channel. What about the other ones? So the other ones are customers, they are users. Encourage them to share their thoughts and pain points around the digital channel, and consolidate all these many thoughts and ideas and observations. When this happened, I was working in a project with a large chain of supermarkets in the Netherlands, and they did this perfectly. So I had almost 10,000 employees, and there was an experimentation day. The experimentation did not only happen digitally, so they tried out things in the supermarkets and so on and so forth. I think the secret sauce is really in encouraging people to throw in ideas and then test them and get some data around it, and then share the results.
I saw a fantastic talk by the marketing director of Asahi at e-commerce live a couple of years ago, and he talked about how they had the Golden Lollipop Award for the marketing team, the global marketing team, who had the biggest failure in a marketing experiment or a marketing campaign, because that meant that they had obviously been bold, they had tried hard, and they had done something bold. It had failed, but they had a culture of experimentation. They had that idea that you would do small marketing campaigns to test what then worked, that could then be put out onto a big campaign. So they created an environment where failure was kind of allowed in pursuit of excellence, which I thought was a really lovely way of doing it. And it's through that experimentation that surely we start to get away from beige. I mean, everything's starting to look the same now. Every website you go to is very vanilla and very the same. And it's it is nobody gets fired for having a beige website now. We can encourage people, Jan, to be more bold by using experimentation to test whether some bolder ideas will work. There's no point just changing the color of a button, hey?
No, I mean, there are some bigger, more complex changes that get into the game and so on. But I'm always I always point out that when we reviewed, I think it was almost 300 conversion rate optimization programs of our customers, we found a pattern of those ones which overperformed, which really created the strongest lift. And the biggest, that's the most important part that they had in common was actually that they ran also the micro tests, the small ones, the buttons, the colors, the content, the photos, and so on, but also structural UX and flow and functional tests and so on. So they did both. Also, a lot of companies who really have a deep and effective culture of experimentation, they have democratized, is that the English word? So they really involve everybody, so everybody can actually own piece of the experimentation. Let me give you an example. There was the head of customer support is actually very often also the owner of the FAQ section of a website, the least attended piece of a website normally, because they're quite static, they're not really into it, and it's not an everyday. So, but they made him the owner of experimentation in his space. So he came up all the time about new ideas about how he could structure the FAQ section and what to change and how to resort things and so on and so forth. So he owned experimentation in his domain, in his space. And same applied for the manager of digital assets. It was a photographer. So he, at a fashion brand. So he is in charge for actually producing and positioning the most effective photos. So he became a tester. He was really familiar later on with experimentation. It was his ideas were not UX related. Also, it was just about these different ways that photos looked and so on, and they started testing in their particular space. So
nice. That's nice example. So it's almost 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks until you come over to Bristol. And on the 17th of April, we have got yourselves, we've got Pinterest, Microsoft Clarity, and Joe, our head of conversion, talking and giving expert advice to a whole, I think there's over 120 marketeers going to be in that room. There's a few more tickets available. And what is it that you really want to communicate to those people? A great shout. Tom, our marketing manager, has just put up on the screen a link to be able to get tickets. Good shout there, Tom. What is it that you really want the marketeers who are perhaps curious about conversion rate optimization? They perhaps don't have a program at the moment. They're coming along to learn a bit more about it. What's the kind of analogy you give them? In fact, I think the tip is it's in the title of this event. You know, you mentioned an example about a shop. I think a shop example.
Yeah, I mean, I read it the other day or a couple of months back that in high street shops like Massimo Dutti or Zara's and so on, the conversion rate is between 50 and 70%. And we are happy when we are at 3%. So what's the difference? And yeah, there are a lot of differences. I mean, admittedly, it's a different environment. But with regards to the event that is actually coming up, assuming that there are a lot of people who own online marketing, who own the campaigns and their results, my personal goal will be to encourage them to, let's say, try out very specific things. And there are three things I'd like to highlight. One is, what actually can you do with your landing pages? So really to make experimentation happen without complexity, without big expensive projects, and so on. And I told Joe as well, I'm really happy to invite people to try it out together with Joe's team. We can actually ramp up and show how much better your ROI can be if you actually build in some experiments into your landing pages, which is not a lot of work. And the second part.
Oh, go on. You go to the second part.
The second part is the big subject of remarketing. I'm always amazed how much effort I see to remarket the messages into all kinds of channels and so on. The only space where remarketing is not happening is on the site. It's funny. It's happening all over. So I can browse the internet, but on the site itself, the brand that I had visited and where I left some traces and where I expressed what I'm interested in, it's not happening there. So you're keeping the message alive across the entire internet, except the online shop where I should buy the product. So that is something which I find incredible. And
I do quite a lot of mentoring and coaching for startups through the University of Exeter. And so these people are coming, brand new idea, they've got a new online presence, and the first piece of advice I give them is to make friends with the web developer that has created their digital assets. You know, this is such a big part of their business, and yet often web developers are lone wolves, or they're external agencies, and there's not a good, strong relationship, because ultimately your website should be a living, breathing thing that you're constantly optimizing. So therefore, your web developer is a really, really important part of your business leadership team. You know, the chance of success is much higher when your web developer is there on hand to make those changes. That's something that's a very big frustration, I think, in all CRO departments, is where we can't then affect change if the web developer has got too long a backlog of tickets, or hasn't got enough budget to be able to affect change. So that's one thing that I think online marketeers, go hug a web developer.
Yeah. No, true, and find a way to your own way into experimentation. Sometimes it does not even take a developer. If you have a good claim in your head, and a lot of marketeers have a good message in their head, and they don't have one idea, as I always say, they have 3 good ideas. So try them, put them out there. It won't take you, building such an experiment around a copy or around the images or your visuals and so on. It can take only minutes. And then it's out there, and you will be amazed how much extra ROI you're gonna have in return there.
I'm always quite surprised at how we've almost dehumanized the website experience. We talk about users and clicks, and we often forget that there's potential customers and people at the heart of it. And if it was your shop, you'd be greeting them, your sales staff would be being trained and encouraged to help people through that sales process. Whereas that personalization piece, that second point that you made there, that's something that customers ask for. You know, they ask for personalization. That Google have plenty of stats that show that a personalized web experience has a much higher conversion rate, because the person feels understood. And we have all of those data points that are possible to make that happen. Yet there is, I think, there is a little bit of friction with the technology that's sometimes needed to make it happen, and therefore it's not attempted. And I think that that's a shame. That's why one of the reasons that we're hosting this event all about conversion optimization, because more than ever before, we need efficiencies in marketing. We need all of those campaigns and all of that media spend and hard work done in organic optimization to actually have a bigger impact when people are brought to the website, but also to really use the website to communicate your brand and give a good experience. And you can do that through better experimentation, because then if you can see what works better and remove those friction points, you're going to have a happier customer at the end of it, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's as I said initially, I wish more marketeers would actually try it out, and they will be. I know that they will be amazed and will redefine their everyday work. Absolutely, and but I think it's partly a human problem, I would say. So if you are the director of e-commerce of a company, and you have a certain size of your team, doesn't need to be too big and so on. You typically have one guy who's in charge for the website. So he is the UX UI guy or the web developer or whatever. So he's in charge for the channel itself. And then you have another guy who is in charge for acquiring traffic. So he is the expert in spending your money on Google and Meta and so on and so forth. And when these 2 guys are working and things get messy and so on, then you need a third guy who is owning data and analytics, because you need to understand what's going on, right? So these 3 pillars define the life of any e-commerce department that I've seen in a certain way. And the problem there is that if not necessarily, I wouldn't call it silos, but each of these people, but first of all, they're very different, right? So the creative UX guy, that he likes to try out things and so on. That's where we CRO people talk to most frequently, because they are building it, improving it, working on it, and so on. And the people we talk much less about are the traffic guys, because they are somewhere around in Google and taking care about working with your money in the best possible way and so on. But the website itself, and whether or not it's going to convert, where you send the traffic there, and so you say, no, that's John. John is taking care about the website. I'm taking care about the traffic. So it's an organizational challenge as well. So the moment that you limit experimentation, you tie it too closely to web development, then the traffic guys, the online marketeers, they say, well, I mean, I brought you lots of good traffic, but I can't help. I mean, your website doesn't convert. So I think this
that was the conversation. Yeah, that was the conversation we had to stop having. Why we needed a conversion rate optimization department was because we couldn't be the sloping shoulders of we've delivered it to your website, but the website's not converting because the pop-up gets in the way, and because there's no social proof on there. And that's enabled us to stop having sloping shoulders. We can now take responsibility and run experiments through VWO. We've got a couple of minutes. We've just got a couple of minutes left. I don't know if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask while we're here. It's been lovely having a lunch and learn with you, and I'm very much looking forward to the event in the next couple of weeks. It is going to be a tight packed schedule. We're starting at 9 o'clock. We've got a coffee break to begin with, and then you're going to be talking all about how we're playing half the game, and that's kind of how we started today. I think I've got a much better idea of what you're going to be covering now, and there's no question that all digital marketing teams and marketing directors should come along and start to understand a bit more about embedding experimentation into their department. Any parting words, Jan? Oh, here we go. Hold on. We do have a question. Okay. Here we go. What are the best methods for coming up with ideas and hypotheses for experimentation?
Well, the answer is two-sided. One is actually the best method is in the word method. So listen to your data. So someone really needs to be normally. You should have a good understanding is where you are losing your users. So actually from the landing page and the arrival experience down to the payment page and so on. So where do you have the most drop-offs and so on? And then at every stage you need to understand what exactly is the problem there at this particular point. So this is all about analysis. You can run funnel analysis, you can run even quantitative analysis, giving you good ideas and so on. So, but this is normally pointing out the problem, but not pointing out the solution. The solution and idea generation. So there is, yes, AI is changing the landscape. You can right now, for instance, at VWO we have you can try it out. That the AI is actually coming up with some ideas around it. However, I think I would repeat what I said before. Encourage your team. I think that's the most successful recipe that I have seen. That you really encourage people to share their observation, consolidate their observations, categorize them, and then actually deploy them in your experimentation roadmap.
Yeah,
that is probably the best idea generator.
Customer focus groups and surveys, Userlytics we've been using as well. There are some great platforms out there that you can use to run these. We've got a final question here. What is the optimal length of time to run an experiment to get a decisive result? Joe would be dying to answer that question. He would say that there wasn't a length of time. I think it's about the volume of data, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it depends a lot on how much traffic you have and how many conversions you have, and then some mathematical guy could explain you when and why you reach statistical significance. So so that you can say with a 95% sure. How long is that? So it can be very, very long if you have not a lot of traffic and not a lot of conversions. It can take for ages, right? If not, so if you have sufficient traffic and you have your conversions and so on, and then typically in very often it is after a week or 2 or 3 or 4, you really have reached that in normal, let's say normal e-commerce areas. However, we always recommend, even if you have a statistical significance after 3 days, do not stop the test. Keep running it so that you at least have 2 full weeks, including 2 weekends, because then you have a good cycle and you do not have any external influences that might generate some wrong data there.
That's a good point, like a sale or something. So Jan, our time is over, and I can also hear that my colleagues have now got calls starting, so my time is also over. So I just want to thank you so much, and I will see you in a couple of weeks in Bristol.
Yeah, really looking forward. I'm trying to bring some sunshine from over here from Spain, and looking forward to meet a lot of online marketers who have really deep discussions around how to play the other half of the game.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Cheers, everyone, for watching.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you. Bye-bye.